Hey there folks, Butter, Echo, and I are back for another Adventures with Void. Something you might know from my previous excursions is that Butter and I like to go clamming. Oftentimes we'll also pick out oysters or mussels if they're available. We've been digging clams at a few beaches in South Vancouver Island for the last few months. Since the water's been cold, we don't have to worry about toxins as much as when red tide is prevalent in the summer, which means we don't have to travel too far before we can find a safe beach to harvest from. If you're planning to harvest shellfish on Vancouver Island, make sure to look at an app such as Can You Dig It, which updates on an easy-to-read map of what's safe to harvest in the different areas around the island. You can also use the official BC Fisheries map, but I find Can You Dig It is a lot more functional. In any case, we found a nice beach that we go to often, which has a lot of shellfish, including different varieties of clams, Pacific oysters, and mussels. The mussels are pretty small, so we don't bother with them too much, but there are plenty of oversized oysters, especially if you go looking for oysters that have been knocked off of the rocks. We feel like it's better to target those oysters than chip off ones that are growing and feeding peacefully on the rocks. There is a daily catch limit of 12 oysters per person. As for clams, you can usually find some if you dig around a few different sandy beaches. A good way to try and figure out if you can dig for clams is to look for little holes that they make by shooting water with their siphons. Don't be confused by ones that squirt out of the beach all the time without even being disturbed, as those are cockles, which never seem to be open for harvesting. Another good sign is if there are tons of clam shells from dead clams all over the beach. When you find a good clamming spot, there's a few varieties that you can come across. Manillas and little necks are the go-to for your average-sized clams. You may also come across varnish clams, which have brown wood varnish pattern on the outside. They're not safe to eat, so leave them alone if you find them. You can also find butter clams, which may or may not be safe to eat depending on what's permitted at the beach you're at. We also find lots of horse clams, which I've also never seen as permitted to eat. Your total daily catch limit for clams is 60 per person for all of the clam types combined, so you can't get 60 manila plus 60 little neck, but you could get 30 manila plus 30 little neck. Also, if you are getting butter clams, you can only get 20 per day, and those also count towards your total 60 per day limit. I didn't get any butter clams on this trip, but Butter found a bunch. They're quite a bit bigger than the other clams you'll find, so if you do get some, they go a long way towards your 60 per day limit. Don't forget to check in what you caught with the BC Fisheries app, and make sure you have a license if you're going to go clamming. The fines are huge, and the license is only $25 per year. There are also size restrictions for how small of shellfish you're allowed to harvest, so make sure you're up to date on that, and if you find any that are too small, put them back and cover them up. It's important to cover up the holes you dug, as if you leave them open, it exposes them to wildlife predation. In any case, that's it for today, folks. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've got a long way to grow this channel, and every subscription helps me get closer. So long again, and see you next time.